Hey there, this is Amelia here. Welcome to Amelia's cross-dressing story. Today we are going to share a story called A Suitable Case for Treatment Part 3. For more interesting and exclusive stories, please subscribe to my channel and support me at Patreon. That was it. That was too much. It was one thing to give me the chance to see things in some way through Pauline's eyes. It was quite another to humiliate me in front of others, especially 3 women. Okay. No. No. That is just not on. Christine, calm down. Yes, it is on. And it is going to happen. Let me remind you of the terms of our agreement. First, this is your last chance. If you do not go through with this, Dr. Elliot and I will wipe our hands of you. I guarantee you will end up in the divorce courts within 2 months. And second, you have signed to pay us the full fee if you back out in any situation other than an emergency. The full £10,000. He had me there. We had both signed it. And I really couldn't go back to Pauline and say I had blown our very final chance. Apart from the money, he was right, it would be divorce and very soon indeed. I just had to go through with it. I could tell by his face, he knew I had no choice. Christine, don't worry. Believe me, you can do this. And I have every reason to believe, from what I know of you and of Mrs. King, that you will get back together, in every sense of the word, after all this is over. Now, we have a short drive, come with me. I'll explain more on the way and when we get there. We went down together and along to the car park. It did indeed feel odd, walking dressed as I was with a man beside me. I was careful not to show too much leg, both getting into his car and as we drove along. But it was difficult, I was getting slightly turned on by the feeling of my shortish skirt and nylon stockings sliding on the leather seats of Dr. Morgan's rather upmarket car. It was less than half a mile. Dr. Morgan turned right as we reached the bottom of a hill, just before reaching the bridge over the river. Just before turning, he had pointed out a shop in a small arcade, apparently the charity shop where somehow I was to work for the week. Round the corner, then about 50 yards down the road, he stopped, outside a small cottage. That's what the estate agents would have called it. Not a proper country cottage, but a small 2-up, 2-down townhouse. I knew that Pauline and I had once, several years earlier, been to a party in a similar house down the road. A mutual friend, who had left the area some time ago. We walked towards the door. Dr. Morgan took a key from his pocket and opened it, then stood aside to let me in. As he closed the door behind us, he handed over the small keyring. These are yours, Christine, now let's go in and I'll finish the explanation. Basically, there was not much else to say. He told me all I needed to know in the office and on the way. I was to live as Christine for the remainder of the week and report to his office on the Friday afternoon for the assessment and to become Christopher again. Until then I was a woman. Living in the bachelor pad, shopping, working, doing everything as a woman. I was still slightly concerned. What about my wife? Christine, in no way are you to phone home, to try to contact Pauline at any time. That would totally invalidate the program. You have to promise me that. We do have emergency plans, in case of something serious like a death in your family and so on. But that's for a real emergency, not because you've burned a cake or laddered your tights or something. You have to promise me. Okay. I had to. And one more thing. We've come up with a code word. Constantinople. It's unlikely to come up in conversation. One of the women you'll be working with knows you are a client of mine, though she doesn't know your particular difficulties. If you need to drop out, just mention it, say you were on holiday there or something. Then she'll reveal herself and contact me. Or you can call me, my number is by the phone in the hall. Leave the word with my answering service. They will ring me immediately if anyone calls with that code word. I know it sounds a bit James Bondish, but it will work. And that was it really. Dr. Watson extended his hand to me. Good luck, Christine. Have a good time. I just know you are going to come out of this with flying colors. I have to go see you on Friday. And he was off. I was on my own. I sat on the small sofa and looked round. The small house was very nice. Neatly decorated, well enough furnished, or so it seemed. First I slipped off my shoes, they were beginning to make my feet hurt slightly. Then I set off to explore. The lounge looked out at the front of the house, over the narrow road, onto a very attractive view of the river. In the early evening sunshine it really did look nice, one or two groups of swans gently floating by. The kitchen likewise had not too bad a view, over a small lawned garden to trees which hid the houses behind. Upstairs there were 2 bedrooms, one medium-sized, one small, and the bathroom. Okay, it was quite a bit smaller than I was used to, but I had lived in much more cramped accommodation in my student days. I patterned back into the kitchen in my bare feet and found the kettle, deciding that a coffee was in order. Wait a moment, I thought, what's in the fridge? Okay, only 2 cans of beer, but that would do for now. I opened one and then realized I was supposed to be being a woman. I found a tall glass and poured it in before drinking it down. So much had already happened that day, I needed it, and it wasn't yet 6 o'clock. I spent another hour looking round, in the drawers downstairs and then in the wardrobes in the main bedroom. Someone had put a lot of thought into this. There was a substantial range of clothing for the new me: suits, skirts, undies, a couple of dresses, shoes, 12 pairs. I've always had a thing about Pauline and sexy shoes. One pair in there really caught my attention. I wondered just what whoever had worked this out had been thinking of. They were boots, not shoes. But what boots? A shiny black PVC, thigh length, and very high-heeled indeed. In fact, the shoes did tend towards higher heels. There were 2 pairs of about 2 inch high, the others were all higher, some very much so, apart from 2 pairs of trainers. I hunted through my undies drawers too, and the dressing table, loads of makeup, jewelry, mainly costume probably, in fact certainly. I noticed the earrings were all clips, thought had indeed gone into this. The top drawer contained a short note: "This is for you, Christine, it should last you. Phone if you need more. E.M. Edward Morgan, it must be." With the note was an envelope containing money. I counted £200 in all, probably taken out of my £1,000. Should be enough for a single girl for the week. I realized I had been on the go nearly all day and could do with a bit of a rest, but needed to use the bathroom first. That was a new experience, pulling down my panties and sitting. I was delighted the falsie did its job. It felt a bit weird peeing through the internal tube, but it worked. I went back downstairs and made myself a coffee, then sat in the garden on a small bench for a while, relaxing. Looking through into the kitchen and lounge, I realized this was not going to be bad, being female and on my own for over a week. I wondered how Pauline was getting on at home without me. Probably enjoying the peace and quiet. I thought of phoning her, but I realized what Dr. Morgan had said. Maybe the phone was bugged. Anyway, the bill would probably list itemized calls. Better not risk it. After all, £9,000 was at stake, and maybe our future too. Then I noticed, on the side of the fridge, one of those magnetic list stickers. I went in and looked closely. It was personalized: Christine's shopping list. And written below: bread, tights, toothpaste. I realized I hadn't seen any tights in the bedroom. And no bread in the kitchen. This was deliberate, to force me to go shopping. Back on the main street about 50 yards away was the small parade of shops, including one local supermarket on the corner which probably stayed open late, even on a Sunday. I went upstairs again to change, but realized it wasn't worth it. The one problem was the shoes. The little toe had been rubbing slightly. And I did rather like the look of the higher heels. I tried a different pair of 3-inch black court shoes. Perfect. I grabbed my handbag and keys, locked the back door, and headed out of the front and up the road. I passed about 3 people on the way. In turn they all smiled. 2 said good evening, with absolutely no hint they saw me as anything other than I seemed to be. This was fun. In the little shop, not really a proper supermarket though that's what it called itself, I wandered briefly round the shelves, finding the bread and the toothpaste and a couple of other items I thought I could use. Before going back to the counter, the feminine hygiene display caught my eye. I picked up a small pack of tampons, maybe to convince the man at the checkout about me. And then I saw the hosiery stand. I looked through the display, recognizing some of the brand names from magazines I had read. There wasn't much choice of tights. I got 2 pairs of black, 3 of a light tan, all labeled one size, which I knew would fit me. Surprisingly, there were several pairs of stockings on display. I spent a few minutes looking through the packs. I chose several, all black, which I rather liked the idea of. Some were 10 denier hold-ups and the label said they had seams, the others were fishnets. I was tempted by the small display of makeup I could see at the other side of the store, but decided I had done enough. I was really having fun. It was a nice feeling being seen as a girl, but I didn't want to overdo it at first. At the checkout I paid, again getting positive looks from the man who was serving. Then a voice spoke behind me. I started. Sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. Did I just see you going into number 23? I'm Jason, I'm at number 19. Pleased to meet you. A neighbor. Just for a moment, since I wasn't expecting to be greeted, I had assumed it was someone who knew me and had spotted me. I was so relieved. I hoped Jason would not have misinterpreted my smile. I calmed quickly and tried to speak quietly as Karen had recommended. Hello there, I'm Christine. Yes, I'm staying there for a while. The house is rented. Don't ask me why, but for some reason I didn't want to give him the impression I was a permanent resident. And was that your husband I saw leaving, or maybe your boyfriend? I think these houses are ideal for couples or single people, don't you? He was fishing. Obviously. I like to think I would have been a lot more subtle in his situation. No, it was just the estate agent person, I replied, smiling and turning away, not really sure how I was managing my first encounter with a male in that situation. Man to woman, I mean. I headed for the door and got out. I had tried not to be rude but wanted out of there. I walked quite briskly back down the road, and calmed as I went. By the time I got to my front door I was much more relaxed. I looked back towards the shop, but Jason wasn't following. Maybe he was doing quite a bit of shopping. But I didn't go in. I crossed the road and sat for just a short while, enjoying the last of the evening sun, facing the river, the swans. I was only 50 yards from the bridge and the main road, yet it was so quiet, so peaceful there. I looked around. There were children playing over the other side of the river. A boat passed me, 2 young men out sculling. Maybe they were from a club? Of course, I realized where I was now. The county boathouse was maybe half a mile upstream. I was jolted out of my reverie as an older couple passed, themselves out for an evening stroll. We exchanged a good evening. As I watched them pass I noticed Jason, bag in hand, coming down the street. Quickly I got together my shopping in my handbag and headed back over the road and into my house, again keen not to overdo any meetings on my first evening as a member of the gentler sex. I spent a while looking through the house and, I have to admit, the wardrobe again, cooked myself a small microwave meal I found in the small freezer, then decided to have a lazy female evening and watch a little TV. I surprised myself by watching a fashion program for a while. It seemed that short skirts were in again, and low heels too. I liked the sound of the first, but not the second. I had found the little drinks cabinet in the lounge and got myself a gin and tonic, sitting there slowly sipping it and imagining myself as a woman. I just began to nod off. But before I did, the program finished. The main news program came on. I watched it through and then, to my satisfaction, found that I needed some male input. I watched a half hour of football highlights. Villa had lost again, shame. Then, time for bed. I locked up and headed up to the bedroom, closed the curtains ready to strip. I had found my sleeping attire, a thin black nightdress, very sexy looking indeed, diaphanous I think it's called, not a baby doll but a bit longer. I held it up against me looking into the mirror. I took off my undies and slid it on. I felt foolish, but in some way it was thrilling. What did it mean? Dunno. In the bathroom, I used the cleansing cream to take off my makeup, brushed my teeth, sat down on the toilet and did what I needed to, amazed that in every sense my plumbing seemed to be fully functional. Then I crawled into bed, pulled the light cord, and slept. I slept really well. It must have been the sheer quantity of excitement the day before. I had set my alarm rather early so that I would have plenty of time to get ready. For work. Work! I was going to be working, dressed up, being a woman in such company all day. The thought terrified me until I realized the reason I was going through all this. I showered, sorted a deep red lacy bra and panties set to wear for the day, then opened the wardrobe and took out a working suit, a deep maroon with a thin gray stripe, longish jacket cut very nicely at the waist. Very classy, I thought. I chose a white blouse too and spent some time putting it on. The small gold buttons were unfamiliar and difficult with my longish nails, but I did manage, also sliding on 2 gold rings and a small, quite pretty I thought, gold bracelet. The shoes I had selected the evening before, also maroon, again with a heel of about 2.5 like the ones I had worn the day before. But these had ankle straps, with small gold buckles, again rather awkward to fasten up, but I persisted. The wig came next. I felt more dressed with it in place. I was getting a little behind time and, once downstairs, put together a small rapid breakfast, fruit juice, a little cereal and a cup of coffee. I was beginning to worry about the time. It was after 8 and I was due at the shop before 9. I had estimated it was about a 20-minute walk from the house. I sat at the small dressing table, my makeup at the ready, really wishing I had more time. I was new to this, and not sure I could do a perfect job in the time. Though I hadn't realized it, my guardian angel was at hand. I heard a noise downstairs. "Christine, it's me, Karen. Can I come up?" "How are you doing?" Karen came in and gave me the once-over. "Great outfit, Christine. I told Dr. Morgan I might like to come in and help, just this first morning." "Here, let me do that. Take your wig off for a while please, then I'll fix it properly in a while. Now, watch carefully while I do this. You really are going to have to do it yourself after today. Pass me that tube please. Don't worry, there is plenty of time. We'll get you looking gorgeous and there on time." I was so relieved Karen had come. Maybe I could have done okay, but at least she made sure, gave me a good start to the day. I did pay special attention as she watched me doing my makeup, foundation, blusher, eyeshadow, mascara, eyeliner, as she passed comments on my performance, only once having to help to give my lashes the right amount of curl with the mascara brush. Then I smoothed on my lipstick while she sorted the wig. With it firmly in place and a pair of gold hoop earrings, I finally grabbed my jacket and handbag and was ready. "Okay, Christine, I did tell Dr. Morgan I wouldn't drive you, but just to be sure you are there on time, let me give you a lift." "Okay." "I don't want you to have to hurry. You do seem very composed this morning, Christine. You are doing really well so far, and I don't want to spoil it." Of course I agreed. As we walked out to her car, we heard a voice. "Morning, Christine." It was Jason, just giving me a friendly greeting as he drove off, presumably to work. "Well, Christine, you are a fast worker," said Karen, grinning at me. "I'm not sure men are in the script here." "Oh no, we just met briefly in the shop last night," I explained, rather embarrassed. As we drove the half-mile to the shop, Karen again confided in me that she had done several transformations for Dr. Morgan. But she did say she really thought, despite what James had said the day before, that I was the best. And I do know Dr. Morgan has made special arrangements for a real emergency. But if it's a problem rather than an emergency, give me a ring. The shop number is in the book. I'm not sure whether I am supposed to help you, but I will if I can. Karen dropped me about 50 yards from the shop at just before 5 to 9. I would have been late if I had walked. I strolled, not enormously confidently, up to the door, pushed it open and walked in. "Sorry, we're not quite open yet." The voice came from another woman. Were there 2 of us there? Sorting things out behind the counter. I tried to look confident, to be Christine. That's all for now. See you in the next video. Please subscribe my channel and support me at Patreon for more exclusive stories.